3:14 p.m. Screenshot deleted. App opened. Battery drop quick. Sending log.
What we just talked about is called telemetry, and it's literally on all of our systems. Microsoft and Mac OSs have defaulted it on our systems, pre-installed, and we cannot even turn this option off. It actually sends every single information of our activity on our system to the company. And this is really intriguing because these giants are not using Mac OSs or Windows. More than 90% of the top web servers are not running on Windows or Mac OSs. They're running on a completely different operating system called the Linux. Now let's first talk about what is Linux. The story starts from Unix, the father of the operating system. At that time, it was killer. But the problem with Unix was it was in the hands of a very few people. And the code of those operating systems was closed. It wasn't available and the purchase was high. So now people wanted something which was more free. This was the start of the open source era. And one such hacker was called Richard Stallman. He started the GNU project, which is interestingly called GNU's Not Unix. Here he wanted to focus on the fact that software should be maintained and owned by its user, not by the owners, because that way our privacy is completely hijacked. And that was when Linux and GNU came about. So Linux is the core of the operating system and GNU is everything surrounding it. The file management system, the memory management system, the input output management system. The GNU people had everything on the side ready, but they just needed the core. Linus Torvalds, on the other hand, has the core ready. And when they combine these two, we got the Linux GNU, which is generally known as the Linux operating system. Now, this operating system had many distributions, grew with time, was completely free, and still is. But if the system is so nice, so many people are using it, why do we not know about it? Windows and Apple collaborated with the hardware companies to pre-install their software on their machines. This way, on the store, we just saw Mac OS and Windows. Linux was barely there. And in that condition, it just never got to our homes. First impressions also matter a lot. Linux is completely based on its command line or terminal. And therefore, for some people who are not geeky enough, they find it very difficult. If those people go and have a look around it, they just don't know where to go. The Linux world is so big, so huge, and it's unheard of. And it's completely different. And therefore, they back off because they just don't know how to go about the system. The popular commercials never supported Linux. They supported Mac OSs, they supported Windows because these operating systems try to hijack systems because it wasn't marketed like Windows and Microsoft because it did not have a face to show it off. Linux did not sell. People just don't buy tech, they buy feelings. And when it was not being related to, it never sold. Linux gives you the control of the cockpit. So now you are the in charge of your operating system and your machine. Unlike Windows and Mac OSs, where you're just clicking through these icons and using, being a consumer. Now you're not just consuming the material, but actually thinking like the computer. The computer is an extension of your mind. The speed of Linux is amazing. 3 to 10 seconds of boot time. Most people have never thought about it. The most important thing, where we started, you are allowed to grant the minuscule of permissions the way you want it to. Even to the most basic task, you are the one giving the permission. You are the one controlling what is sent and what is not sent. And that allows another level of privacy. Most of the softwares which software developers, coders, hackers use today have been made specifically for Linux. So they are actually built and meant for Linux, like VS Code, NeoVim, but we are all running it on some different software. Even though many people would counter this fact that Linux feels really difficult and it's way too techy and geeky to go about, you actually learn as you go. The more and more you spend time with the system and the more and more you do things in the system, you eventually get habitual to working with command line. And once you get used to command line, it's so much difficult to going back to GUI because that's way more slower, and you are now working very quickly and are able to access so many things that the GUI just doesn't allow. The Linux operating system in general makes your mind adaptable. It makes you used to the core working of the computer, That allows you to customize it so well, so amazingly, that you can literally transform the whole desktop. You can literally work with every single thing. And I think this is also one of the core problems with the system, because there is so much customization allowed. People just do not know how to work with this freedom. But it's really the time we should. If we don't want our privacy to be hijacked anymore, we must think our operating systems back. And really, if the internet trusted Linux so well, maybe it's time your laptop trusted you.